Chapter 41 Tianyun Country. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Call out, turn into a stream of light and cross the eastern region, rush to the corner of the eastern region, a nook and cranny. Lu Jian was silent all the way, looking at the distance that he had to use the magic weapon to cross, or the distance of thousands of miles. Under the leadership of Elder Chu, it only took a moment to cross it. His heart was full of sighs, and at the same time, he became more and more excited as he looked at this road. Familiar, when passing through a primeval forest, the doubts in my heart reached its peak. I couldn't help but say, Master, are you going? Tianyun Kingdom. Chu Xun smiled slightly. Tianyun Kingdom. Lu Jian's heart trembled, even though he was slightly moved when he saw the familiar road and made some guesses, he was still confused. Tianyun country was just a corner of the Eastern Territory. Maybe he had a good sense of touch when he grew up there, but Elder Chu was a giant in the Eastern Territory. How could you pay attention to such nooks and crannies? We'll find out when we get there. Chu Xun also smiled slightly without explaining. At the same time, Tianyun Kingdom, imperial capital, is falling into an unprecedented catastrophe. Under the clear sky, the people of the imperial capital lived as usual. They had morning tea and hummed a tune leisurely. Young students read aloud in the academy. Everything was a prosperous scene. The people lived and ate with peace of mind. Worrying about foreigners is all because this generation of emperors is a wise king and governs well. Comfortable, an old man was stretching and listening to a ditty in the theater, with a look of satisfaction on his face. He lamented that such a life was not easy to come by, and even tried to persuade his grandson to cherish such time. But suddenly, something happened. Dark clouds appeared in the clear sky. At first, the old man thought that a storm was coming, but gradually, the dense depression made everyone's soul covered with dust, and they couldn't help but look up. What happened? Why is it so dark? A little weird. At this time, the people of Tianyun Kingdom noticed something strange, but they didn't pay much attention to it. This was the imperial capital of Tianyun Kingdom and all the powerful people lived here. No matter what happened, nothing would happen here, however. Rumble. In the dark sky, a black dragon loomed, its huge dragon head, and its pitch-black scales that shuttled under the clouds, as if they were made of black diamond. Each black scale reflected a cold light, especially for the evil spirits. The greed reflected in his eyes made the people of the imperial capital inexplicably tremble. Dragon. Dragon. In the imperial city, the emperor, who was sitting on the dragon chair practicing cultivation, was immediately alarmed. He came outside the palace and saw the traces of the black dragon. His pupils kept shrinking, and there was an ominous premonition in his heart. Jia. Immediately afterwards, a strange face condensed under the clouds, sinister, cunning, and cruel. Accompanied by the strange laughter, the emperor's heart trembled and he recognized it. Demonic cult, how can it be? This kind of people are born cruel and like to kill. However, this kind of demon has disappeared in the eastern region for hundreds of years and been annihilated by the top holy places. How can it resurrect now and the Tianyun Kingdom appears? An ominous premonition fills my heart. The next second, 3 figures descended under the clouds. The black cloak covered the body, making it impossible to see the face. Under the cloak, there was a ghostly fire, which made people panic. A dark light flashed from his eyes, flickering unsteadily, and he said cruelly, Tianyun Kingdom, the billions of creatures are really fresh and delicious. If we slaughter all the Tianyun Kingdom, our cultivation level will be as high as that of a semi-saint under the blood sacrifice. GGGGGG, more than that, if you and I all break through the semi-saint realm, and a year later the saint of the Donglin sect dies, and the 3 of us sacrifice blood to the Donglin Holy Land, wouldn't it be possible to reach the Holy Realm by then? The emperor of the Tianyun Kingdom below felt his scalp numb when he heard that these 3 members of the demon cult actually wanted to sacrifice hundreds of millions of living beings in the Tianyun Kingdom. Such a cruel thing happened in his country, which made his heart tremble and he suppressed his fear. Said, I don't know when I, Tianyun Kingdom, offended my senior. If I have offended you, please tell me clearly. I am willing to pay the price. Cost. Can you afford it? A devil under a cloak smiled strangely, and saw a strange red cauldron appearing in the black clouds. The mouth of the cauldron was filled with red mist, which seemed to be the essence of human life. As the cauldron appeared, the entire sky reflects the two poles, black, red. As wisps of red mist fell, the people of the imperial city fell into hallucinations, their faces dull, their eyes empty, and the life essence overflowing from their heads. No. This scene made the emperor of Tianyun kingdom very anxious. How could those who were his people be absorbed by the demon sect wantonly in absorbing the life essence? He directly activated the national protection formation, and a huge light shield enveloped the imperial capital, allowing the sluggish people to escape. Waking up from a hallucination. Ridiculous. Another man in a cloak looked down mockingly. He didn't need to do anything at all. The black dragon in the clouds swooped down, and a divine dragon swung its tail directly on the formation. He could clearly see that the formation was enough to withstand the venerable realm, and it collapsed inch by inch. It fell apart in the blink of an eye and exploded completely. Puff. As the emperor in the center of the formation, he was even more affected by the backlash, with blood pouring from his mouth and fear in his pupils. He didn't know what state the demonic dragon was in, but just a swipe of its tail broke the Tianyun kingdom's formation, allowing him to rise to the level at all. He has no will to fight and only has infinite regret in his heart. Who did Tianyun kingdom offend? Why would such a powerful demon come? The red mist on the red cauldron spread again. At this time, a place in the imperial capital bloomed with sacred brilliance. It was Tianyun Academy, the strongest academy in Tianyun kingdom. It was a matter of life and death for a country. Even if it was defeated, it would still stand up. Ho! The demon dragon roared, shattering the sacred light and completely shattering the hopes of the people of the imperial city. Their eyes were dull, and they watched their life essence drain away and submerge into the red cauldron. The emperor of Tianyun kingdom was also desperate. Even he was unable to resist. He watched his life essence flowing away continuously and gathering in the red cauldron. At this moment, he could not think of anyone else who could come to save him. As an emperor, you are in the realm of a prince, and you can be called a king or a lord in one place, but after all, it is a remote place. The strongest person he has come into contact with in this life is only in the realm of the venerable, and the black dragon gave him an unfathomable feeling. I really can't think of anyone who can save me. On the verge of despair, suddenly. He thought of one person. The peerless genius of Tianyun kingdom has become a master of Tianyun kingdom at a young age. In his eyes, he is even better than himself. He tested his last hope and prayed, several seniors, I have a genius Lu Jian in Tianyun kingdom. He is a genius at a young age. He has broken into the eastern territory and may even become a disciple of a big force. Can you spare my life in the Tianyun kingdom for his sake? Tianyun Academy, people of the empire, these people also had hope when they heard the emperor's words. They all saw Lu Jian's talents as a natural talent. He was the pride of Tianyun kingdom. If he went to the eastern region, he would at least be able to join the Buwei sect, and maybe even it is the 6 holy places in rumors. Can it have any effect for his sake? Chapter 43 Demon Cauldron. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arrogant, the cold pupils of the black-robed man who slapped off his bone claws were filled with anger. He knew all the top experts in the eastern region, and there were only a few people in the 9th realm of the human emperor. How dare this old man who appeared out of nowhere dare to despise him like this, which directly aroused his anger. Boom! The palm of the bone became more and more fierce, but suddenly, a green vine sword light flashed, and I saw the green sword floating safely in the air, directly cutting through the palm of the bone, and the old man held the sword in his hand, and slashed out lightly a sword. Wow! All of a sudden, the whole world seemed to be frozen, a green sword energy filled with vitality spurted out, and the suppressed panic and despair that filled people's hearts were directly dispelled, but in the eyes of the 3 people, there was supreme terror. This sword. Third brother, get out of here. Can't stop it. This sword is very dangerous. that the two men in cloaks standing behind also suddenly changed their expressions. The ivy sword they slashed instantly changed from 3 feet to 300 feet, 3,000 feet, 30,000 feet, and a huge and brilliant sword energy slashed down overwhelmingly. There is no escape, there is no escape. Join forces. The remaining two men in cloaks immediately came to the side of the third child. The three of them joined together to form a huge red formation. When they matched each other, their strength became one, and their realms skyrocketed. If he had only used the strength of the 8th realm of the human emperor before, he would now soar directly to the 9th realm of the human emperor. After a slight pause, his breath would burst out to the peak of the 9th realm of the human emperor, and then after another pause, he would reach the limit of the human emperor. This strength is quite impressive. Puff, but the sword light from the ivy sword was even more terrifying. The huge blue sword light of 30,000 feet galloped instantly. Even if the three of them activated the blood formation, they were like ants under the giant sword and were wiped out easily. Puff, a cloud of blood mist exploded. The blue giant sword was crisscrossing, easily crushing the three people into powder. Even until they died, the three of them couldn't figure out why this old man, who was mediocre and only had the cultivation of the human emperor, exploded with strength comparable to the holy realm. Weak. Chu Xun shook his head gently. His current cultivation level has long been able to explode the power of the 9th realm of the human emperor. With the chaos sword body and the power of the holy weapon ivy sword, he doesn't know how far he is from the saint, but there are not many people in the human emperor who can block his sword. At least these three people are not among them. Galong. Tianyun kingdom fell into a brief silence. Everyone looked at the old man in the sky with dumbfounded eyes, so much so that even their breathing froze because the contrast was too great. In the last second, people's life essence was continuously absorbed by the magic cauldron in the sky, and in the next second, two people came. One was the familiar Ye Chen, and the other was a strange old man. Then the old man waved his sleeves casually, and the demon dragon that could shatter the Tianyun kingdom's national defense formation exploded on the spot and turned into blood mist. Then with a light sword, the three demon heads fell directly. How can it be? How can this be? Those three people can hunt down the sect masters of the 6 holy lands. After a short period of silence, Tianyun kingdom fell into strong shock and cheers, especially those from Tianyun Academy. Those were all practitioners and knew deeply what the masters of the 6 holy places in the Eastern Territory represented, and the three demons were previously at that level. He was killed by this ordinary old man with a sword. A sword, there is only one sword, this is too terrible. Ye Chen, who was standing next to Chu Xun, had already been frozen there. In the last breath, he had been sadly doubting his life. He was an unlucky ghost. He finally became a disciple but brought disaster to his master. The next second, his master was in front of him. He killed 3 demons in front of him, and he only used one sword, but beside his master, he could easily notice that his master didn't use all his strength at all. Even when he swung the sword, there was still strong contempt in his eyes, and he didn't even think of using the second sword. He couldn't help but say, "They are bragging. It doesn't count." Chu Xun shook his head. If the 3 people in the previous realm were a bit bragging, with the blessing of the 3 people's joint formation, they directly exploded to the limit of the human emperor's cultivation. At this level, they can defeat the 3 of them are not many, and they are indeed qualified to hunt down the 6 holy land masters, but it is a pity that they met themselves. Ye Chen couldn't turn a corner, and looked at Chu Xun in confusion. He opened his mouth to say something but didn't know how to say it. He only had one thought in his mind: this is too pretentious. As soon as the thought came up, he quickly restrained himself, secretly blaming himself. It was a taboo for the venerable. Besides, does this mean that master is pretending? It is obvious that the 3 of them are too weak. Master, please just follow your heart. Chu Xun moved his eyes to the red cauldron in the sky again. It had absorbed the blood of the people of Tianyun kingdom. The cauldron looked even more bewitching and evil. A faceless human face faintly appeared on the back of the cauldron, but it flashed and passed away, directly turning into a stream of light and quickly escaping. Something weird. Chu Xun murmured. Treasures generally have no spirituality. Even a sacred weapon like the ivy sword only has a small amount of spirituality. As for letting him run away when encountering an enemy, he has absolutely no ability to do so. This mouthful, however, Ding was able to check the surrounding dangers, and knowing that the 3 demons had fallen, he also dived into the black clouds to escape. Boom! A big hand reached out, passed through the dense black clouds, and clasped on the magic cauldron. It heard a huge tremor and shook wildly in an attempt to get rid of it. However, the palm of his hand firmly tied it in his hand, and the strange red cauldron erupted violently again. The suction force was wildly devouring Chu Xun's cultivation. Snort! With a cold snort, Bahuang slapped the magic cauldron with his palm, making a dull sound boom. A force of desolation spread out, turning into the nemesis of the magic cauldron, causing it to scream sharply and struggle. Shake! You want to escape from a creature without an owner? You are underestimating Chu. Chu Xun's real body moved forward, and in just 3 or 2 steps, he arrived in front of the magic cauldron. At this point, the beast chose to surrender obediently, turning into the size of a palm and letting Chu Xun hold it in his palm. At the same time, the emperor of Tianyun Kingdom was no longer ravaged by the magic cauldron. The people were weak and slumped on the ground, with pale faces, as if they had suffered a serious illness. Even the emperor of Tianyun Kingdom was no exception. He had been attacked by the National Defense Formation before, and his life essence was lost. He was so weak that he couldn't even stand, but his spirit was particularly excited. He looked at Lu Jian and the old man with burning eyes, thinking secretly in his heart, I know that Lu Jian is talented. He was so evil in Tianyun Kingdom. He showed his talent after entering the East region. Even such a strong man is willing to accept him as a disciple. He is worthy of being the pride of my Tianyun Kingdom. The students of Tianyun Academy were also excited, their eyes full of admiration, whispering, what kind of teacher did senior brother Lu Jian worship? How could he be so powerful? Those 3 demons said they could hunt down the leaders of the 6 holy places, but he could kill them easily, so he must be, in a guess. They also saw the emperor of Tianyun Kingdom, who turned into a stream of light and went to pay his respects. Chapter 44 Slaves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior, the emperor of Tianyun Kingdom, who transformed into a stream of light and rushed towards him, shouted with gratitude. If it weren't for Chu Xun, the entire Tianyun Kingdom would have suffered. What made him even more excited was that Chu Xun's identity was probably a saint among the 6 holy places. According to rumors, there are not many such levels even in the 6 holy lands. Even if there are, it is a divine dragon that has never seen its end. It is rare to see one in seclusion all year round. He did not expect Lu Jian to be able to worship the latter as his teacher. I'm not a saint yet. Chu Xun, who saw what he was thinking, shook his head slightly. Although he was infinitely close in terms of combat power, his true state was still a little behind. Modesty, the emperor of Tianyun Kingdom secretly thought in his heart that the sword was huge and was 30,000 feet tall. Who but a saint could slash it, and besides, only a saint could show more terror. For a moment, he glanced at Lu Jian from the corner of his eye and was even more pleased. It was indeed Tianyun. The country's genius has shown extraordinary talent since he was a child, and he has been optimistic about it. Only entering the eastern region can fully stimulate his talent. Under this gaze, Lu Jian felt ashamed. The emperor of Tianyun Kingdom, the people of the imperial capital, and his former classmates probably thought that he was prospering in the eastern region. Only he knew clearly that if Elder Chu hadn't pulled the strings at the critical moment, he had beaten himself, and now he has become decadent and degenerate, and how can he not be as good as he is now? He also said, Emperor Zhao, my master doesn't like this lively occasion, so you should go down and sit down first. Okay. Emperor Zhao of the Tianyun Kingdom entertained with a smile, and personally led the way to the palace. Normally, Chu Xun would still be a little curious about the palace in ancient times, but now that he had conquered a magic cauldron and wanted to study its function, he said, prepare a wing room. I'm going to stay in seclusion for a few days. A flash of darkness flashed in Zhao Tianzi's eyes. The arrival of such a supreme figure in Tianyun Kingdom was a great joy. Being able to ask for help from one or two pairs of people to help him improve his cultivation by leaps and bounds, but the senior had no intention of doing so and could only give up. After a while, a luxurious private room was arranged. Burn incense, light the stove, the wafting fragrance is soothing. Buzz, a red small cauldron also appeared in the palm of his hand. Although Zhao Tianzi outside the door regretted that he could not give any advice on cultivation, when he saw Lu Jian, his eyes sparkled and he said with a smile, "Lu Jian, you have such a temper." Much calmer than before. He still remembered how dazzling and energetic Lu Jian was when he was in the imperial capital of Tianyun Kingdom. Unfortunately, he only stayed there for 3 years before traveling and heading straight to the Eastern Territory. Opportunities are abundant and luck is overwhelming. This journey must be quite exciting. Why don't you tell me about it? Lu Jian raised his head numbly, his expression slightly frozen. Thinking of the successive blows he received when he first entered the Eastern Territory, he began to doubt his life. Yes, Lu Jian came from my Tianyun Academy, and he just explained his wonderful deeds so that I can share with your junior brothers and sisters. I think this journey must be thrilling, but with great opportunities, even the geniuses of the Eastern region are impressed by it. Come on. The dean of Tianyun Academy also came over excitedly. Lu Jian was stunned. The whole person, numb. In the wing room, the small red cauldron was silent, pretending to be dead. Boom! Chu Xun would not let him get used to him. He patted it lightly with his palm. It seemed powerless but turned into a big bell inside the cauldron. There was a loud resounding sound. If the formation had not been simply arranged in the wing, I am afraid that this ripple would have been enough to burn the entire palace to the ground. Still not coming out. Chu Xun frowned slightly, rubbed his palms, and dropped it lightly. When he was about to approach, the red cauldron made a violent shuddering sound and broke free from its restraints. Call out, a faceless human face is also reflected on the small red cauldron, and the eyebrows are also simply carved, showing a look of fear, fearing that another blow will directly smash the small cauldron to pieces. Who are you? Chu Xun said gently. The faceless man who simply described his features calmed down his fear a little, and followed the magic voice to bewitch him. It doesn't matter who I am, the important thing is that I am your opportunity, a huge opportunity. If you surrender to me and worship me as your master, I can give it to you. Heaven is a great blessing, even if I wish you to break through to the holy realm. What does it mean? Hiss! Wisps of demonic energy emerged from the mouth of the tripod and spread out. It was a rich life essence, without any trace of falsehood. Just one sniff would make you energetic. If you absorb a few more strands of cultivation, it would also increase accordingly. Seeing Chu Xun closing his eyes and indulging in it, the faceless man relaxed slightly, and then said seductively, I have a strong essence in my body, but it is not enough to wish you a breakthrough in the holy realm. I sacrificed my blood to Tianyun Kingdom in order to achieve your breakthrough in cultivation. The holy realm is more than enough, and when the world is so big, where else can you go? Boom! With a slight shudder, the strands of life essence collapsed into nothingness. Such a change shocked the red cauldron, and it turned into a stream of light and flew away. Bang! The formation in the room lit up, leaving no possibility of escape. Chu Xun's eyes became colder and colder. This cauldron was very evil. It had been seen earlier. 3 demon heads sacrificed their blood to Tianyun Kingdom, and countless people's blood. The gathering sank into the cauldron, and it turned out that the source was this small cauldron. It absorbs the life essence of the people, and then feeds it back to the 3 demons, turning them into slaves in turn, constantly sacrificing, and slaughtering one city after another. I am afraid that the 3 of them do not know that it is its efforts rather than its controller, and they are afraid that earlier still feeling complacent about having this cauldron, pitiful, sad. You. The faceless man's face was filled with fear. This was something he had never encountered before. At first, he was only controlled by an ordinary person. As he continued to bewitch, his masters continued to change, and no one could escape. Its sharp claws, get something for nothing, rapid progress, this benefit is so good, usually, it takes 3 to 5 years of hard practice to break through a small realm, but with the blessing of the magic tripod, it only takes 2 or 3 months of preparation to easily cross several realms after slaughtering a city. Who cannot be tempted by such a rapid promotion? Now it encounters a freak, but it is not moved. The most important thing is that it saw the murderous intent in the old man's eyes, and wanted to smash it. This made the little tripod horrified and said, "You can't do it, I am the sacred object of the Green Bull Demon Lord." Green Bull Demon Lord. Chu Xun's pupils flashed with confusion. My Blue Bull Demon Lord is about to leave Yinxu. If you hurt me, I will never let you go. As if afraid that Chu Xun didn't know the origin of the Blue Bull Demon Lord, he said fiercely, the great demon exterminating sect in the eastern region back then destroyed my master. He is not dead, but just sleeping. He is about to wake up. I advise you to surrender to the Demon Lord with me. Bang! A light palm slapped down, and a crack spread across the demon cauldron, which really made the demon cauldron completely crazy. The faceless man also appeared ferocious and said, "You are crazy. The Demon Lord has appeared and the eastern region is about to be in chaos. What's wrong with surrendering to my master?" Gotcha! The answer to him was still the expressionless palm prince. 1, 2, 3, the cracks gradually increased, the demon cauldron was desperate. Chapter 45 Yinxu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Crack! As the 10th palm print fell, the small tripod exploded completely. Bang! Then came the rich life essence, which was so rich that it filled the entire room. 1 day of practice in it was better than half a decade in the outside world, but Chu Xun's eyes were filled with sadness. This rich life essence has sacrificed countless people. The little blood and qi of Tianyun country is just a drop in the ocean. I'm afraid that the 3 demons were also deceived. They thought they had obtained the supreme treasure, but they didn't expect to be transformed into slaves. It can be imagined that the magic tripod gave back to the 3 of them only a little bit, and the real huge blood and qi were hidden in the tripod, waiting for his master to wake up from Yinxu, sleeping for many years to absorb this huge life essence and return to the peak directly. Humph! There was a flash of ferocity in his eyes. Although he was not a righteous person who hated evil, such a cruel massacre appeared in front of him. The murderer behind it was really infuriating, and he wanted to kill him as soon as possible. He pressed his palm to wipe out the life essence bit by bit. It was not that Chu Xun was too generous and did not want the benefits in front of him. It was really that he had a system and did not need to use this unorthodox method. The 3 demons before were a lesson. They were obviously the strength of the 9th level of the human emperor, but they were only the 8th level of the human emperor. The realm was raised, but there were still great hidden dangers in the body. This was no different from drugs for him. It was fun for a while. There were endless troubles, and this huge life essence also contained evil thoughts, which could easily affect people's minds. If it was allowed to spread and be absorbed by people near the palace, I am afraid that a wise king would turn into a tyrant and a demon king in a few days, which would be another disaster for the people of Tianyun Kingdom. Do your best, send people to the west. Since the troubles of Tianyun Kingdom have been solved, they should be solved thoroughly. A few days later, the wing room was clear again, as the array patterns dissipated. Chu Xun's eyes were filled with calm emotions, but his heart was heavy. If you don't go out to the outside world, you will never know the cruelty of the cultivation world. Some people will do anything to cultivate. Master, Lu Jian, who was guarding outside the door, also greeted him as soon as possible. Yeah. Chu Xun nodded gently, and looked at this disciple with a little more relief. From the evaluation of life, you can see how difficult it is to stick to your heart and never fall, even if you fall into the devil's sect and display all kinds of unorthodox ways. Follow me. Chu Xun said. Lu Jian sighed, and his eyes were filled with some relief. Looking back on these few days, he was extremely socially dead. Thinking of how he had braggarted 2 little cowhides with a hard head, it became more and more serious in Tianyun country. At first, he just boasted that he had good talent and awakened the sword body and was valued by the teacher and accepted as a disciple. I don't know how it was passed on to Tianyun Academy, and it became the eldest brother Lu Jian awakening the sword body, and it was hard to be defeated in the East region. Somehow, it spread to the imperial capital and turned into the awakened sword body of Lu Jian of Tianyun country. He easily suppressed the younger generation in the East region and became very popular. He was accepted as a disciple by the 6 major holy lands. There are even more rumors. Lu Jian awakened his sword body and easily defeated all kinds of Qinjiao. The saints followed him. The 6 major holy lands fought to snatch the disciple. In the end, the saints came forward to accept him as their subordinate, but this exaggerated rumor was really believed by some people. Thinking of Lu Jian's master that day, he easily killed the 3 great emperors of the 9th realm. It was not the strength of a saint. For this kind of rumor, the rumors were spreading more and more violently. At this time, Lu Jian could vaguely think that more exaggerated rumors were brewing, which made this smooth-edged young man ashamed to death and had no face to stay in Tianyun country. A few days later, Donglin sect, Chu Xun had just returned when an elder came up to him. "Elder Chu, you are back. I am afraid you don't know that a big thing happened in the East region these days. The Yin ruins that had been buried for hundreds of years reappeared every day, alarming the East region. Countless practitioners rushed to explore, and the sect leader Xiao Rongyu has been there for many days." Elder Sun said. Chu Xun was slightly stunned. Yin ruins. When Tianyun Kingdom smashed the magic tripod, he heard that guy wailing in pain, saying that his master was about to recover from Yin ruins. He wanted to go back to the Sutra Pavilion to look for scriptures to see if there were any allusions about Yin ruins, but Yin ruins was right in front of him. Yes. Yin ruins. Elder Sun also had a complicated look, with longing in his eyes, and said, the Yin ruins in the East region back then were extremely popular. There were several saints alone, and they established a huge dynasty, Yin dynasty, covering 60% of the East region. Even my Donglin sect would have to bow down at that time. Unfortunately, the Yin dynasty offended some senior outside the East region, and the once glorious dynasty was wiped out overnight, leaving no one alive. The entire East region was in turmoil. After that, the heat of the Yin dynasty went down after a few decades of silence. I didn't expect that the remains of the Yin dynasty would be found this time. After listening, Chu Xun nodded silently, and he also had a general understanding of the Yin ruins. He could also imagine the prosperity of the Yin dynasty from it. The East region is now dominated by sects, and it is difficult to establish a capital, but the Yin dynasty was able to establish such a huge dynasty in the East region. The prosperity at that time was probably unimaginable. I'm afraid that a piece of magic paper was sent down, and the East region respected everything. It's a pity that such a huge dynasty also fell in the long river of time, but it's no wonder that the leader Xiao Rongyu rushed over after hearing the news. Suddenly, Chu Xun's pupils shrank slightly. He thought of Mo Ding's words, the Blue Bull Demon Lord is about to revive in Yinxu, so isn't there a terrifying demon hidden in Yinxu now? He is not very clear about the origin of the Blue Bull Demon Lord, but judging from the origin of the demon Cauldron, it is very likely that he is a saint. What's wrong? Elder Sun asked curiously. Nothing. Chu Xun shook his head. He had thought about it when he returned, and he would go to Yinxu when he broke through the Saint Realm one day, but now Yinxu has come out in advance and disrupted his plan. It is obviously unrealistic to rush to Yinxu at this time. Although the Blue Bull Demon Lord was suppressed and weak to an unknown extent, it is too risky. What is the situation in the sect now? Chu Xun asked again. Elder Wang, he is stopping a group of young geniuses from exploring. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. Elder Sun said. This is a consensus of the 6 holy places. When the ruins appear, these young people can explore and find their own opportunities. This matter is of great importance. It is still unknown whether the appearance of Yinxu is a blessing or a curse. The young generation does not need to go too much. Just let Xianxia go a few times to show his respect. Chu Xun urged. Elder Sun was a little confused, but he also stared at Elder Chu's teachings. By the way, let Jiang Chen come. Chu Xun touched a piece of talisman paper in his hand. This was a reward for reading 1,000 volumes of books. It could carry one of his own attacks. Although he could not come in person, this talisman paper might not be useless at a critical moment. As for why Jiang Chen was asked to go, Chu Xun thought very simply. The villain of destiny would not fall so easily. Besides, he was the big villain who was about to condense the Dark Lotus. He would not die so easily. Let him go to try the water. Maybe he could really save Xiao Rongyu's life. Chapter 46 Ye Chen's Provocation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master, Jiang Chen bowed respectfully. Yes. Chu Xun nodded, put down the book in his hand, looked at the latter's cultivation and said, not bad, the fourth realm of the Venerable. Jiang Chen's face was full of smiles. He would not show this outside, but he was sincerely happy to be praised by the respected master. That's a talisman paper. It contains my attack. It can be used at a critical moment. Jiang Chen looked at the talisman paper hanging on one side with surprise. He also knew that the Jiang family even had things like talismans, but they were too scarce to be passed down as a family-suppressing item. He didn't expect that the master had one in his hand and gave him one. He couldn't help but say happily, thank you, master. Go, be careful on the road, this trip is dangerous and there is a chance of encountering danger. I hope you can gain something. Chu Xun said slowly again, picked up the scriptures and continued to study. Jiang Chen also retreated respectfully. A moment later, a flying boat set sail, away from Donglin sect. On the way, several disciples of Donglin sect were nervous and expectant, but more of them were curious, especially when approaching Yin ruins. They exchanged, I heard that Yin dynasty was the hegemon of the eastern region at that time, and its sect disappeared overnight, leaving behind countless holy artifacts and secret treasures, and even priceless inheritance. If you find it, it will be a supreme fortune. I heard that the 6 major holy places in the eastern region and many geniuses of top forces have gathered there, which can be said to be turbulent and disturb the peace of the entire eastern region. Don't be careless, the fight between secret treasures is often accompanied by life and death fights. Sometimes secret treasures may be important, but life is more important. You should follow Jiang Chen closely on this trip. With his protection, you will not suffer any loss. Elder Wang he also interrupted. Yeah, several young disciples nodded heavily and looked at the young man sitting cross-legged at the front of the flying boat. They had both admiration and respect. The eldest brother of Donglin sect was still admired by them in terms of character and all aspects. Soon, the flying boat approached Yin ruins. Several young people were shocked by the scene in front of them. It was a gray sky. It was originally a plain, but now the ground was cracked, and an old capital from ancient times appeared before them. The gray dust was like a barrier that covered and isolated. The city was built on the basis of the 8 diagrams. Each house had a vital and tiny effect. From a distance, it looked like a 8 diagrams formation. It was conceivable how powerful the formation of this city was, but what was even more shocking was that a huge palm print remained in the center of the old capital, destroying 90% of the area. The city was broken and the broken stones were cracked. What was rare was that the palace was somewhat intact among the remains. Now the dust was still there, and the dusty old capital could be seen in the haze. Donglin sect is here. The people from Donglin Holy Land are here. The 6 holy lands have gathered again this time, that there were already countless practitioners below Yinxu. They watched the flags of Donglin sect waving from afar and a flying boat crossed over, all of them showing enthusiasm and surprise. What's the situation now? Elder Wang he said, earlier, a spy from the Donglin sect arrived first. He stared at the old capital in front of him and said, the leaders of the 6 holy places have come in person. They broke the barrier first and entered to look for opportunities. After that, no one entered since the barrier healed, but the strength of the barrier is weakening little by little. In a few hours, the younger generation will be able to enter. Yeah, Wang he nodded and said secretly, it's not too late. Yo! Is there only this few people in the Donglin sect? Is there no one? The weird voice made the cultivators present stunned. Even the strong men of the Nangong family looked at it in surprise. The news that the saint of the Donglin sect was about to pass away was no longer a secret. At this time, there were still people who were blind enough to provoke the Donglin sect. Looking around, there was both surprise and relief. It's him. Ye Chen. Ye Chen from Xiandao sect. Many casual cultivators below immediately became interested. Xiandao sect was the first group to arrive, and Ye Chen from Xiandao sect had been waiting to challenge the geniuses of other forces, and defeated them one by one. It's him. The young men from Donglin Holy Land also recognized the newcomer. Back then, Ye Chen had caused quite a stir in Donglin sect, and even flirted with Ye Chen, but was suppressed by his senior brother Jiang Chen. Now he has joined Xiandao sect and boasts of his achievements. Is he deliberately provoking? Jiang Chen also narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't expect to meet Ye Chen again after more than half a year, and judging from Ye Chen's position, he was the leader in Xiandao sect. Swoosh! A figure flashed. Ye Chen strolled in the void, staring at Jiang Chen of Donglin sect with narrowed eyes, and said with a sneer on his lips, I have heard of the reputation of Jiang Chen, the saint of Donglin sect for a long time. Today I come to ask for advice. Do you dare to fight? I am coming. I am coming. That's it. The crowd watching the excitement below were all delighted. Earlier, Ye Chen asked for advice from the saint of Tianji sect and the saint of Shen sect, and defeated them one after another. Now his reputation has just begun to emerge. As long as his deeds spread, he will be famous in the East region. He is also preparing to step on Jiang Chen, the saint of Donglin sect, and make a name for himself in the East region. There are also many warlike cultivators with fiery eyes. At this time, the eyes of the East region are all focused here. It can be said to be the best time to fight for fame. It's a pity that they don't have enough strength and can only watch. Humph. A clown who picks up the pieces. My senior brother ruthlessly suppressed me that day. You still dare to provoke me now. Don't know whether you live or die. A young disciple of the Donglin sect immediately said angrily, preparing to take action on behalf of his senior brother, but Jiang Chen raised his hand to stop him and said calmly, Junior brother Lu, since you are provoking me, I am free to take action. That he said implicitly and squinted his eyes slightly, seeing that Ye Chen was extraordinary and at the level of a venerable. No wonder he dared to challenge him in public. It seemed that the destiny of the protagonist was extremely lucky. Even if he was suppressed by him that day, he could still do it. Rise. It's about to start a fight. Who wins and who loses? Jiang Chen, he is the legitimate son of the Jiang family. He is also the senior brother of Donglin sect and the saint's son. He has entered the venerable realm early. There are only a handful of young people in the eastern region who can fight with him. Although Ye Chen is very powerful, but he may not be his opponent. I don't think so. Didn't we think so when Ye Chen faced off against the saints and saints from other holy lands earlier? The result was slapped in the face by all of them. I think Ye Chen will still win. Whisper, everyone has his own opinion, even figures from the older generation lowered their eyes and showed curiosity. Ye Chen had already become famous in the previous battle, so he might not be able to defeat Jiang Chen. In the void, Jiang Chen sat cross-legged, dressed in white and as handsome as jade. His appearance and aura alone overwhelmed Ye Chen. In contrast, the latter looked like a native. Chapter 47, Defeated in Seconds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Humph. Ye Chen's eyes were filled with jealousy. He thought, why are you pretending? You'll be stepped on in the future. His mind relaxed at this point. The more this happened, the more he could show his extraordinary talent. Boom, the cultivation on his body exploded, Dharma realm, King realm, Venerable realm. It took only a few breaths to adjust to the peak state. Ye Chen's pupils were cold and he said, when we fought that day, you relied on your realm, but now I want to see what you can do to defeat me. Ignorance. Ye Chen was still sitting cross-legged in the void, with holy and flawless light emanating from his body, covering him. He was holy and flawless, like the purest saint, the saint of Yinxu sect, the saint of Xianxia sect, the saint of Tianji palace. These young elites also looked over. Seeing this scene, they were surprised and frowned. Is Ye Chen so arrogant? He sits there cross-legged. Is he not going to use his full strength? The beautiful eyes of the saint of the goddess palace also contained tension. Her pretty face was pale. She thought Ye Chen's cultivation was ordinary and was fooled by him. Unexpectedly, the latter's cultivation was very strong. She suffered a loss and was defeated. She also worriedly transmitted, "Brother Jiang, be careful. This person has a good cultivation. Don't be fooled by his appearance. It doesn't matter. A jumping clown. One sword will do." Ye Chen said this without telepathy. He said it in public, which made everyone around speechless. Even the saints of other holy places frowned slightly, thinking that Ye Chen was too arrogant, only to see, an ancient sword was sacrificed. It was the Taixian sword, holding this sword. Swish. Swing a sword. In an instant, the pupils of the saints and saints of the major holy places were frozen, staring at the crescent sword light, all showing horror, and couldn't help but exclaiming, "This sword." The rich sword light was boiling, bursting out with terrible sword intent. Even the seniors who had entered the venerable realm for many years were moved by it, and felt the sword intent and were horrified. Unexpectedly, the cultivation of the younger generation had already approached them, and even surpassed them faintly. Boom! Ye Chen was the first to bear the brunt, feeling the supreme terror under this sword light. His eyes were filled with horror and shock, and he looked at Ye Chen in disbelief. How could this sword light be so strong? He had fought with the saints and saints of several other places, and he didn't feel this kind of overwhelming threat at all. He even felt that this sword light could kill him. Impossible. I, Ye Chen, am the son of destiny. With Grandpa Ring accompanying me. How can I be defeated by him? Boom. The sword light surged, it drowned him, puff. As the dust and mist dissipated, countless practitioners looked up at the void in silence. Ye Chen was still dressed in white like snow, with unparalleled temperament. He sat cross-legged with sacred light flowing around him, and he could be called the supreme son of God. On the other hand, Ye Chen's clothes were torn, there were sword marks on his body, and there was blood at the corners of his lips. He was in a miserable state. More importantly, there was an old man standing in front of him. If it weren't for the latter's rescue, he would have died under the sword energy. Such a contrast, the victory or defeat was already decided. What everyone didn't expect was that it would be so devastating. Ye Chen sat cross-legged in the void, and he didn't even get up. He just casually held the sword and swung it with one blow, almost destroying the opponent's soul. Those spectators were also a little speechless. If Ye Chen was too weak, it would be fine, but he had just defeated the rising stars in the East region one after another. Even the holy son of Tianji sect and the holy maiden of Shen sect were defeated. His strength had been proven, but he was still defeated miserably. It was not that Ye Chen was too weak, but that Ye Chen was too strong. The holy son of Yinxu sect, the holy son of Xianxia sect, the direct son of Nangong family, the pupils of these young elites also contracted, staring at the sword, and couldn't help saying, "It's not that Ye Chen is too strong, it's that the sword is weird." Human Emperor Sword. Taixian sword. Someone recognized the origin of this sword, he exclaimed. The holy son of Xianxia sect sighed. If the latter had reached such a level of cultivation with a casual sword, it would be terrible. If he had used the magic weapon of the human emperor realm, it would not seem so strong. It was still within expectations, but it was undeniable that Ye Chen was powerful. If he didn't have enough cultivation support, even if he was given a magic weapon of the human emperor realm, it would not be so powerful. Ye Chen, who was sitting cross-legged, had a transcendent temperament and was quite satisfied with the result of this sword. After knowing that Ye Chen was the protagonist of destiny from the life simulation, he never thought of killing him easily. Now that the sword was weak, he was not ready to continue. Humph! What a cruel young man! It was just a competition between peers, but he killed them directly. Such a cruel man cannot be spared. I will wait for your master to punish you. The old man standing in front of Ye Chen defended him and pulled his hand over. At the same time, Elder Wang He, who was sitting cross-legged on the flying boat of Donglin sect, snorted coldly and said, "Where did you come from? When will it be your turn to teach a lesson to the people of my Donglin sect?" Pa! A palm came from the air, it hit the old man's face directly, knocking him away, and blood foam spurted out. This shocked the people around. They didn't expect that it was just a competition between two young people, but in a blink of an eye, the strong men of the human emperor realm came out to fight and slap the opponent. Yinxu sect, Xianxia sect, Tianji palace. These bigwigs on the flying boat also looked strange. They didn't expect that the people of Donglin sect would be so brave and slap Xiandao sect in the face in public. The old man was only at the peak of the venerable level, which was nothing, but the slap was a real slap on the face of Yinxu sect. Would the latter let it go? Just as he thought of this, a strong and overwhelming breath rose from the Xiandao sect's flying boat, and a vicissitudes of life voice came from it. Donglin sect is too domineering. Are they bullying me because there is no one in the Xiandao sect? Zheng, a pair of eyes fell from the Xianwu sect's flying boat, and the heavy pressure like a mountain pressing down on Ye Chen made it difficult to breathe. The latter continued, I heard that this sword was auctioned by my apprentice Ye Chen in Tianbao City as a tribute to me, but it was robbed by you, a shameless junior. Now it has been returned to its original owner. Buzz, a larger palm stretched out from the flying boat, covering the sky and the sun, making the human emperor realm of other holy places also feel awe-inspiring, secretly saying, this old monster has become more powerful. At the same time, there was also regret. They had also heard of the reputation of the Taishan sword. It was a treasure. It was originally in the hands of Elder Chu of the Sutra Pavilion. Unexpectedly, the latter was so generous as to give it to the younger generation. Now, not only will the Taishan sword be lost, but I am afraid that the face of the Donglin sect will also be lost today. Elder Wang He's pupils also froze slightly. He didn't expect that the human emperor on the other side was so bold. Wasn't he afraid that his own saint would go straight to the Xiandao sect at the last moment? But the big hand on the other side was restrained and wanted to forcibly snatch the Taishan sword. His figure flashed and he was about to make a move when he heard Ye Chen's voice transmission, Elder Wang, don't worry, just watch me act. Here I come. Under great pressure, Ye Chen's eyes showed no fear. Instead, he was full of energy and extremely excited. He even had a talisman paper in his hand, and said excitedly, Master is really as good as a god. He knew that this trip would be dangerous, so he gave me this talisman. Now I will kill this old Taoist with a sword and let him show off. Chapter 48 The talisman paper shows its power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That the old Taoist who was entrenched in the flying boat suddenly jumped his eyelids, and had a sense of foreboding, which made him alert. You know, after this retreat and breaking through the 9th level of the human emperor, there are not many people who can threaten him. The agitation just now made him extremely uneasy, but he still pressed his big hand down and said indifferently, the only one who can threaten me in the Donglin sect is the saint, and the saint is about to sit and die and has no time to go out. Who can threaten me? Zheng, a talisman paper was crushed in Ye Chen's hand. What is that? What? Talisman paper. The human emperor of the Yinxu sect, the human emperor of the Tianji sect, the human emperor of the Xianxia sect. The keen observation of these strong men instantly locked onto the talisman paper in Ye Chen's hand, but it was a pity that it was crushed by the latter before he had time to take a closer look. Bang! A surging sword intent swept out, and a virtual and majestic figure condensed behind Ye Chen. It took only a moment from virtual to real. Facing the restrained big palm, the phantom only sent out a ripple and easily shattered it. A series of surprised and doubtful voices rang out, but after seeing the figure clearly, everyone was slightly stunned and said in surprise, it's Chu Xun, this talisman paper is his. The human emperor of Tianji's sect looked strange. He had thought that Ye Chen had some kind of powerful weapon in his hand, but now that he had revealed his true form, he seemed to be nothing to be afraid of. I thought this kid relied on something, but it turned out to be him. The human emperor of Yinxu's sect also murmured, but his eyes were filled with indifference. Although Chu Xun was strong, he was just a phantom after all, and his strength was limited. Humph. Who did I think he was? It turns out he's just a rat. The senior emperor who was entrenched in the Xiandao sect looked down on him and said sarcastically, even if the master behind this talisman comes, I can suppress him with one hand. It's a fantasy to think that you can shock me with a phantom. Really, that the phantom behind Ye Chen was Chu Xun. His eyes were warm and peaceful. He casually moved the Taixian sword and it fell into his palm. He slashed out with a sword. In an instant, a sword energy that spanned thousands of miles passed by, like a slash through the abyss. Hiss! The old man who was entrenched in the Xiandao sect's flying boat suddenly contracted his pupils, his white hair flying, and he looked at the backlight in shock. Even the other disciples on the flying boat were horrified and felt as small and weak as ants under this sword. This sword, the old monster entrenched in the flying boat was completely trembling, and fear was born in his heart. This made him terrified. You know, he has broken through the 9th level of the human emperor, and this talisman paper is still a talisman paper after all. Buzz 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 buzz. The formation on the flying boat was the first to light up, and golden divine feathers gathered one by one, hanging on the left and right of the flying boat, and evolved into a huge golden divine feather formation. This is a large formation simulated by the predecessors of the Xiandao sect using divine birds, however. Crack, that without even a breath, the sword energy became more and more blazing, spanning 30,000 miles, and was not inferior to the light of the sky. Whether it was the flying boat or the powerful cultivator, they were as weak and tiny as ants under this sword energy. Roar! The old man on the Xiandao sect's flying boat also formed seals with both hands, bursting out with infinite magical powers, and displayed palms that covered the sky and the sun, slapping towards the sword light to block it. Bang 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 bang, the sky was filled with dull explosions, and the surroundings fell into an unprecedented silence. A series of horrified eyes stared, all with strong shock, dust and fog filled the air, firelight was billowing, pieces of flying boat debris were flying, the cultivators watching the battle below were all trembling in their hearts. You know, that was the powerful human emperor of the Xiandao sect, and there was also the flying boat formation. The two were combined into one, but the end was so miserable. What about the people in the flying boat? The human emperor of the goddess sect also breathed rapidly, staring at the explosion with a pair of beautiful eyes. He had a premonition that the old monster of the Xiandao sect might die here. After all, he couldn't protect the flying boat, so how could he be better? The raging fire dissipated, the dust and fog also dissipated. Ahem! A weak voice came from the fire, and the human emperor of Yinxu's sect breathed a sigh of relief, not dead, but when people saw the situation clearly, they were dumbfounded. The old monster of Xiandao sect had lost his previous prestige. Sword energy was running through his body, and the embers of life were burning in his pupils. Even if he didn't die, he wouldn't live long in this state. Sha sha, as he opened his mouth, sword energy came out of his mouth, but at this time his eyes were full of despair and unwillingness. He had clearly broken through the 9th level of the human emperor and was truly at the top of the eastern region, but he was killed on his first trip out of retreat. If he was defeated head-on, he would accept it, but it was clearly just a talisman paper, and it was controlled by a junior, but he was killed. He was so unwilling that he roared angrily, "I am unwilling." Boom. The remaining sword energy burst out, blooming from his body, transforming into thousands of sword lights that shined on the world. Puff! The old monster of Xiandao sect even turned the flying boat into ashes. Hiss! The surroundings were deathly silent. When their eyes fixed on Ye Chen, they revealed strong fear, which was the fear of Chu Xun. The pupils of the human emperor of the goddess sect were also shrinking. You know, how long has it been? A few months ago, Chu Xun was still under the 9th level of the human emperor and was unable to protect himself. Even holding this holy sword, he was in danger of falling. But now, even though they were thousands of miles apart, a piece of talisman paper containing part of his power could kill the 9th level of the human emperor, and he was still under the protection of the flying boat. Without that flying boat, wouldn't the old monster of the immortal Tao sect be killed in an instant, with no trace left, not even a cry of pain? Horrible. Evildoer. Is this just a matter of accumulation and late blooming, that the people of the 6 holy lands were greatly shocked? They did not expect that while waiting for the Yin ruins to be opened, such a wonderful deed would happen, and a supreme giant of the 9th realm of the human emperor would fall as a result. Master, Ye Chen panicked. Today he is so arrogant and provocative everywhere, stepping on all kinds of talented people. The saint son and saint girl are all because he has the support of his master behind him. The old monster just now is his teacher who joined the immortal Tao sect, and he decided to do it because of his transcendent status. The speed of practice is so fast, but now, beheaded. The reason, he occupies the absolute cause. If he hadn't provoked Donglin sect's Ye Chen, this would not have happened at all. Even if the immortal sect's leader did not pursue the case afterwards, his future resources would probably be lost. Besides, if such a big thing happened, could the immortal sect not pursue the case? He would be finished. He looked pale. Not only was the strong backer behind him gone, but he also felt murderous intent around him. Snort. Ye Chen's eyes showed murderous intent. Previously, he had failed with a sword and no longer took action, which was the governor's fault. Now that the immortal sect's backers were gone, it would be best if Ye Chen could suppress himself. Zhang. No longer sitting cross-legged, he stood up straight and held the Taixian sword in his hand, turning it into a stream of light to kill. Chapter 49 The Great Fortune of the Man of Destiny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Help. Ye Chen's face was pale. He was severely injured by a sword before and knew that he was no match for his opponent, the holy son of Zhenwu sect, the holy son of Tianji sect, the holy maiden of Shen sect. These young people looked on indifferently, and some even sneered. Earlier, Ye Chen had aggressively provoked this and that, stepped on everyone, and had accumulated a lot of anger. Seeing the other party suffer a disaster, he was naturally happy. The Zhenwu sect's human emperor frowned slightly. In the final analysis, Zhenwu sect and him were temporarily allies and had a common enemy. It was a bit unfair to watch the other party's young people die here at this time. I don't think it's necessary to intervene in this little matter. It was Ye Chen who asked for advice earlier. Facing such an outcome, he should be mentally prepared. The human emperor of Shen sect said calmly, and he was extremely displeased with Ye Chen. Xinxing sect, Tianji sect, Nangong family. Also intended to do so. The Zhenwu sect's human emperor pondered for a while, but gave up. Save me. Ye Chen looked around, and found that no emperor was willing to help him. He felt even more desperate, and his hatred for Ye Chen was even more turbulent. He couldn't understand why he had been so successful all the way, and could turn danger into safety no matter who he met, but why he was repeatedly defeated by Ye Chen. How dare you! Suddenly, a thunderous roar, it shook the 4 fields. Looking at each other, he saw a man in a Taoist robe rushing over from afar. It was the emperor of the Xiandao sect, but the emperor's eyes were bloodshot and his heart was trembling when he saw this scene. He felt uneasy when he was practicing in the Donglin sect, and he couldn't sit still anyway, so he rushed to see it. Who would have thought that he happened to see this scene? The flying boat of the Xiandao sect was chopped to pieces, and the old monster Zhao, who was in seclusion to break through the realm, died. This made his eyes black, and there was a suffocating depression in his heart. He had mocked the top masters of the Donglin sect without the emperor. Now his Xiandao sect is also facing such a dilemma. Zhao Huangchao, Zhao Qingsu, Zhao Gunan, these are all people who have reached the 5th level of the human emperor and have died because of the Donglin sect. Now even the old monster Zhao who has just broken through the 9th level of the human emperor has died. This makes him murderous and his pupils reflect the terrifying sword energy. Raised his hand to suppress it vigorously. want to destroy all the people in the Donglin sect. Humph. It's a matter between the juniors. Elders, take action. That's too much. An old man with silver hair came across from a distance and blocked the attack. Ye Chen saw the latter and showed joy, saying, "Sixth Grandpa, this silver-haired old man is the late Jiang family." The sixth clan master of the Jiang family nodded gently. The human emperor of Xiandao sect was furious and said, "Does your Jiang family also want to intervene in the feud between my Xiandao sect and Donglin sect?" The silver-haired old man shook his head and said, "It's not that I intervened, but I saw you bullying my Jiang family's eldest son, so I stepped in to resolve it. I also saw the scene just now. Old monster Zhao bullied the weak and capsized in the ditch. It's not others' fault. You still have to take care of yourself. There is no top human emperor in Xiandao sect. The human emperor of Xiandao sect gritted his teeth and naturally heard the threat in his words. He is the only top human emperor in Xiandao sect except Qinyu. If he dies here again, Xiandao sect may decline and face a period of transition. No more fighting. The human emperor of Shen sect, the human emperor of Tianji sect, the human emperor of Zhenwu sect." All of them understood this scene clearly, but his eyes still lingered on Ye Chen, revealing a strange color. He began to seriously recall the power of the sword just now, and couldn't help looking at each other and said, "That sword, was it really cut by Chu Xun? It's unlikely. A few months ago, Chu Xun was still in the fifth realm of the human emperor. With the help of the holy weapon Taishan sword, he barely exerted a combat power comparable to the ninth realm, but it couldn't last long. The sword just now was infinitely close to the saint, the human emperors thought quietly, recalling the huge sword light just now, which first shattered the formation on the flying boat and then killed Zhao Leiguai with force. It was not like Chu Xun could cut it. Even if he had accumulated a lot of experience and made rapid progress, it would not be possible to reach such an exaggerated level. The Zhenwu sect's human emperor's eyes showed a trace of anxiety. He couldn't judge this matter. He said silently, "When this matter is over, report to the master of the sect quickly. Donglin sect can't be delayed for too long. There may be changes. It must be destroyed this morning. It may not be Chu Xun, it may be borrowed from some secret method." The human emperor of Tianji Palace was also guessing, and didn't want to admit that Chu Xun's realm would advance so rapidly. What a pity. Ye Chen's eyes showed a slight disappointment. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he still failed to kill Ye Chen. He also secretly sighed, he is worthy of being the protagonist of destiny. He can't be killed. His ability to turn danger into safety is really amazing, but he looked at Ye Chen coldly. Xiandao's sect had been crippled. It was difficult to protect him. When he found another opportunity, he might be able to kill him completely. At the same time, he looked at Sixth Grandpa and smiled brightly. "Sixth Grandpa, why are you here?" "Ha!" Yinxu appeared. "How could Jiang not come?" But I saw a huge flying boat crossing from the back, and a tall flag swayed in the wind, with a single word Jiang engraved on it. There was also a handsome young man standing on the deck of the flying boat. He was Jiang Ju, Ye Chen's cousin. He was currently accompanying an elder and said, "Third grandfather, my cousin has done another great deed. He killed a powerful person at the ninth level of the human sovereign realm with his venerable realm. I'm afraid he will soon be famous in the eastern region." The gray-haired old man looked gloomy. With Ye Chen's reputation, does he still need to care about these things? What bothers him is that Ye Chen is becoming more and more ignorant of himself. The hatred between Donglin sect and Xiandao sect is between the two sects, and it's none of your business. As long as he returns to the Jiang family, Xiandao sect is fine, Zhenwu sect is fine. Who dares to go to the Jiang family to touch him? Now he is getting more and more involved with Donglin sect, and he is about to be tied together. This is not what he likes to see, especially when the news that the saint of Donglin sect is about to pass away comes out. He doesn't want to be too involved with Donglin sect, but there are still some old stubborn people in the clan who think it's okay to be tied to Donglin sect. Humph. It will only cause trouble for Jiang family. It seems that Jiang family really needs to consider the successor. Third grandfather said coldly. Earlier, the Jiang family tacitly agreed that Ye Chen would be the successor. He only needed to practice in Donglin sect for a period of time, and then he could inherit the family and replace his father's duties after returning to the Jiang family. However, Donglin sect has been in chaos recently, and powerful enemies are coveting it. If he is too deeply involved, he may be in trouble. Unfortunately, the current clan leader Jiang Zhenshan has a close relationship with Donglin sect. Some elders in the clan have raised the meaning recently. It happened that Jiang Ju appeared at this time, and he also showed his talent for the sky, which is not much worse than Jiang Chen, and Jiang Ju's identity is clean. He has not joined any forces, he is enough to replace Jiang Chen to inherit the Jiang family, and he also said lightly, Jiang Chen is too involved with Donglin sect. When he returns to the clan, we can consider removing Jiang Chen's status as the eldest son and let him stay in Donglin sect like Elder Jiang. Chapter 50, Seizing Ye Chen's Great Opportunity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Jiang family flying boat was approaching. Jiang Chen also saw another old man on the flying boat, the third grandfather, and smiled and said, the third grandfather is here too. It seems that the Yin ruins are in the world and it is quite lively. There may be a great inheritance in the Yin ruins, and more crises are accompanied. You and your group will have to go together later. The third grandfather on the flying boat pretended not to hear and turned to Jiang Ju and others. Old third. The silver-haired old six frowned slightly. He knew that the third brother had some opinions about Jiang Chen recently, but the younger generation took the initiative to greet him, so how could he ignore it? Ah, that the third brother pretended to wake up and looked in surprise. Brother. Brother Jiang. Brother Jiang Chen, that the young people on the flying boat also greeted Jiang Chen. The latter just nodded, glanced at the third grandfather and glanced at Jiang Ju beside him, without saying anything else, took a light step and returned to the Donglin sect flying boat. Humph, that the stubborn and pedantic third grandfather snorted coldly, his face was very unhappy. The Jiang family's children were all here, and Jiang Chen was still running to Donglin sect. It seemed that his heart had already followed the Jiang family and it was not suitable for him to take over the ancient Jiang family. On the Donglin sect flying boat, there was a joyful look. Big brother. Big brother. Big brother. Looking at these intimate, bright and sincere smiles, Jiang Chen nodded gently, and his eyes also wandered to the gray barrier in front of him, and whispered, it's a little weaker, and it will be opened in a cup of tea. Yeah. Elder Wang he also nodded while standing on the board, his eyes filled with worry, and said, this trip is too dangerous. Remember to be cautious after you enter. Don't force an opportunity that you can't get. Jiang Chen's eyes were filled with strange looks, standing there quietly. As time passed, a cup of tea passed quickly. Buzz. The gray barrier trembled slightly, as if a layer of gray dust was shaken off, making the barrier of Yinxu obviously much weaker, and the people of other forces showed joy. It's okay. Swish. In an instant, one figure after another sank into the ruins, and the barrier that could block everything before no longer blocked these young people, allowing them to shuttle in. Swish, swish, swish. Let's go too. As Jiang Chen spoke, he led the Donglin sect's group through the barrier and landed in Yinxu. What he saw was cold and shocking. The city was dark, the sky was dim, and it was filled with an ancient, dilapidated city buried by the years, green tiles, and an atmosphere that made breathing feel oppressive. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A thick fog came and submerged them, which made the Donglin sect disciples say, no wonder we can't see the figures of the sect masters outside. This thick fog is enough to cover up all the divine brilliance. I'm afraid what we see outside is fake. Several people nodded. Before the others could speak, they heard the uniform footsteps, which made them confused. What sound? Why did it sound like a military formation? Immediately afterwards, under the fog, a group of neatly lined soldiers could be vaguely seen moving forward numbly. They were wearing ancient armor, which should be bronze or silver, but the color was buried under the passage of time, and only the eternal black remained. Everyone was cold and numb, but they brought with them a murderous aura. All of them are in the realm of kings and princes. The leader is in the realm of the venerable, Junior brother Lu exclaimed in a low voice, and his mind was shocked. You know, the venerable realm is also a mainstay in the 6 major holy places, but in this Yin ruins, it is just a small captain of the patrol team. What made them feel most incredible was that the footsteps were still echoing, but in just a few breaths, this group of patrols with golden weapons and iron horses and sharp blades disappeared out of thin air. This made the Donglin sect's scalps tingle, and they couldn't help but exclaimed, "Is it a human or a ghost?" Jiang Chen's pupils also froze slightly. Although the master had warned him that this trip would be dangerous, such a strange thing still surprised him. He couldn't help but glance at the junior brothers and sisters behind him and said, "Do you want to follow me or look for opportunities alone?" "Follow senior brother Jiang." "Follow senior brother." "Follow senior brother," that the Donglin sect's scalps tingled. They might have thought of exploring separately earlier, but now they are very determined to follow senior brother. When the crisis comes, senior brother will not ignore them, and if they find benefits, senior brother will also share a share, which still makes them feel at ease. Yeah, Jiang Chen nodded gently. At this time, he heard footsteps in the confusion again. After seeing clearly, he also showed a little strange color, knowing that it was the people of Tianji sect, who seemed to have chosen to explore alone. Then he saw many people who were alone along the way. Obviously, people from other sects chose to disperse and look for opportunities on their own. If they get great luck, they may not be unable to counterattack and become the son of God. The people of Donglin sect were much simpler, holding the thigh. "There is meat to eat. Jiang Chen is here. What are you thinking about, holy son?" "I am afraid that he will be suppressed by a hand." Gradually moving forward, some disciples of Donglin Holy Land also showed confusion. This direction was not to the palace, but to the opposite direction to leave the city. This confused them and had puzzled expressions on their faces. Due to the majesty of the eldest brother, they could only suppress their thoughts in their hearts. "Ha! I saw a relic. There is really a legacy. There is a shining venerable level magic weapon inside, that when passing by a mansion, the gate was open and there were magic weapons circulating in it, which made these disciples happy. Most of them were in the king realm, and the inherited magic weapons of the venerable level were already very coveted." Swoosh, but Jiang Chen didn't even pause, and passed by directly, which made the eyes of those excited disciples flicker with disappointment. Then they saw a number of inherited mansions, and even saw an inherited magic weapon of the human emperor realm, but what shocked them was that the eldest brother passed by directly without even pausing. "What is this for?" Some of them were even more confused, and some disciples couldn't bear the desire and chose to give up following and go to a human emperor realm inherited mansion to seek opportunities. Keep going forward. The number of people is getting smaller and smaller. When it was close to leaving the city, there were less than 5 people, but Jiang Chen saw the destination with strong joy in his eyes and said, "This is it." "Brother, do you know where this is?" Junior brother Lu asked in confusion. Jiang Chen did not respond, but his eyes were burning. He was still planning for the ruins of Yinxu. He closed his eyes and thought about the life simulation. According to the normal trajectory, Ye Chen grew up step by step in Donglin sect and achieved the venerable realm quietly under his nose, but he still could not do anything to him, and the turning point of everything, all came from Yinxu. There is a great inheritance in Yinxu. Ye Chen obtained the inheritance here. It was ridiculous to say that according to the original trajectory, he deliberately suppressed Ye Chen and expelled him from the ruins and prevented him from approaching the direction of the palace. Who would have thought that it would make Ye Chen successful and let him come to this place and find the true inheritance of Yinxu? There are 3 things in it, crucial, a kind of practice. De Huang Jing. The inheritance of the state of the Yin dynasty can make people fight beyond their level. Zhenghua Jian. The ancestral weapon of the Yin dynasty can suppress the luck and can also be used to defend against the enemy. It gathers the luck of the Yin dynasty for thousands of years and its value is immeasurable. Mysterious inheritance. This is the most precious thing in the inheritance of Yinxu. The reason why the Yin dynasty was destroyed was because of this inheritance. It was coveted by the forces outside the East region, so they chased here and destroyed the Yin dynasty overnight. However, they searched all over the dynasty and couldn't find such a thing. Who would have thought that it was hidden in this inconspicuous place? 3 things, all are treasures. Ye Chen also rose completely with these 3 things. Whether it is the skills or the foundation, he is not inferior to himself, and even surpasses him in one fell swoop, which also leaves a foreshadowing for his future defeat. Unexpectedly, after watching the life simulation, this great opportunity of Ye Chen was intercepted by himself, which made him smile.